My name is Sarah Winter, and I learned early in life that some families measure love in dollar signs. Growing up in the prestigious Winter family meant living under the constant pressure of expectations, not just about who you were, but more importantly, how much you were worth. I was always different from my cousins. While they chased corporate dreams and fought for positions in the family's investment firm, I saw a different path. Energy infrastructure fascinated me. The intricate systems that powered cities, the potential for sustainable solutions, the way everything connected. But in the Winter family, if you weren't in finance or real estate, you might as well not exist. Another crazy idea, Sarah, my cousin Marcus would say, his voice dripping with condescension whenever I tried to explain my passion for renewable energy. I suppose someone has to read electric meters for a living. The annual Winter family Christmas gathering was always a parade of wealth and achievements. This year was no different as we gathered at Uncle Philip's mansion, a sprawling estate that screamed old money and privilege. The 20-foot Christmas tree in the foyer dripped with ornaments worth more than most people's cars. Aunt Victoria stood by the fireplace, diamond tennis bracelet catching the light as she gestured with her wine glass. Did you hear about Marcus? Just closed a $50 million real estate deal. Following right in his father's footsteps, her eyes slid to me, sharp with disapproval. And Sarah, are you still doing that? What was it again? Something with power plants. I took a slow sip of wine, remembering the contracts sitting on my desk at home. Contracts they knew nothing about. Yes, Aunt Victoria, still working in energy. My cousin Olivia, fresh from her promotion to VP at Winter Investment Group, snickered. God, Sarah, don't you get tired of being the family charity case? Even the cleaning lady drives a better car than you. I glanced out the window at my modest Honda Civic parked among the Mercedes and BMWs. They had no idea that I chose to keep driving it even after Winter Peak Holdings, my company, had acquired its fourth power utility. Speaking of charity, Uncle Philip's voice boomed across the room as he joined our little circle. It's time for the gift exchange. Though Sarah, dear, if you couldn't afford to participate this year, we understand. The room fell quiet as everyone turned to look at me. This was their favorite part, the annual ritual of expensive gifts that served as a measuring stick of success. I watched as Olivia unwrapped a Cartier watch from Marcus, as Aunt Victoria exclaimed over a first-class vacation package from her husband. When it was my turn, I handed out simple cards to each family member. It's not much, I said softly, playing my role. Just something small to show I care. Marcus barely glanced at his card before tossing it aside. How thoughtful. A card. Maybe next year you can afford actual presents. I saw my card flutter into the wastepaper basket, and something inside me hardened. They had no idea that those cards contained information that would become very relevant very soon. You see, while they were busy mocking my career choices, I had been quietly building an empire. Winter Peak Holdings now controlled power utilities across 3 states. Tomorrow, the announcement would go public. We had just acquired Evergreen Energy, the company that supplied power to this very mansion. And with that acquisition came something interesting. The discovery that the Winter family's various properties had been grossly underpaying for electricity through a fraudulent billing scheme orchestrated by Uncle Philip himself. I excused myself early from the gathering, citing work obligations. Of course you have to leave, Olivia called after me. Those electric meters won't read themselves. As I drove home in my trusty Honda, I smiled, thinking about the letters that would arrive with their January bills. Detailed audits of years of fraudulent billing, demands for back payment with interest, and notification of new ownership. Soon they would learn that the family's charity case now held the switch to their lights. But that was tomorrow's drama. Tonight, I had contracts to sign and an empire to run. The power company acquisition was just the beginning. I had spent years building Winter Peak Holdings from the ground up, careful to keep my name hidden behind layers of corporate structure. Not out of shame, but because I knew this day would come. The day when my family's mockery would finally meet reality. Let them laugh at my Honda. Let them sneer at my simple gifts. In less than 24 hours, they would learn what real power looked like. And it had nothing to do with the size of your Christmas tree. The morning after Christmas dawned cold and bright. I sat in my home office, a converted industrial loft that would have shocked my family with its understated elegance. Watching the financial news channels, any minute now, the announcement would break. Right on schedule, the ticker tape began scrolling. BUREAKI. Winter Peak Holdings acquires Evergreen Energy in $2.8 billion deal. Largest utility merger of the year. My phone buzzed. It was James, my CFO. It's done, Sarah. The audit notices are being sent out right now. Every Winter family property will receive their updated bills by noon. I glanced at my watch. 10:30 a.m. Uncle Philip would be at his usual late breakfast. Aunt Victoria would be at her yoga class. And Marcus would be bragging about his latest deal to anyone who would listen. Their peaceful morning was about to shatter. The first call came at 11:45 a.m. Uncle Philip's name flashed on my screen. I let it go to voicemail. Then, Aunt Victoria. Then Marcus. By noon, I had 17 missed calls from family members. The emails started flooding in too. URGENT. Regarding Evergreen Energy bill. Need to discuss power company situation immediately. What is the meaning of this outrageous bill? I opened Uncle Philip's email first. His usual pompous tone had given way to barely contained panic. Sarah, there must be some mistake. We just received a bill from Evergreen Energy, now apparently Winter Peak Holdings, claiming we owe $847,000 in unpaid utilities and penalties. This is obviously an error. Call me immediately. Attached was the audit notice I had personally approved. It detailed 5 years of fraudulent billing schemes, manipulated meter readings, and falsified usage reports. Everything was meticulously documented, every number triple-checked. At 1 p.m., my office phone rang. The receptionist's voice was amused. Ms. Winter, your cousin Marcus is in the lobby. He's quite insistent about seeing you. I straightened my blazer and smiled. Send him up. Marcus burst through my office door, his designer suit wrinkled, his face red with fury. He stopped short when he saw me sitting behind the massive desk. The city skyline spread out behind me through floor-to-ceiling windows. What the hell is this? He waved a stack of papers. Some kind of joke. I leaned back in my chair. The audit papers seem quite clear, Marcus. Winter family properties have been underpaying for utilities for years through various fraudulent schemes. Winter Peak Holdings is simply correcting this oversight. Winter Peak. His face went from red to white. You own Winter Peak Holdings? Founded it 6 years ago, I said calmly. Built it from the ground up, while you were all laughing at my career choices. He sank into one of the visitor chairs, papers slipping from his fingers. The card? At Christmas. It was a notice, wasn't it? A courtesy heads up. I did try to warn you all, in my own way. Marcus ran a shaking hand through his hair. $800,000. Uncle Philip will have a heart attack. Actually, I pressed a button on my desk, and my assistant brought in another stack of documents. That's just for the main house. We're still processing the audits for the vacation properties, the company buildings, and all those luxury apartments the family owns. The color drained completely from Marcus's face. You can't do this. We're family. I stood up slowly, placing both hands on my desk. Family. Yesterday, I was the charity case who couldn't afford Christmas presents. The day before that, I was the embarrassment who chose energy over real estate. For years, I was the punchline to every family joke. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Funny how family only matters when you need something. What do you want? His voice was barely a whisper. Want? I don't want anything, Marcus. I'm simply running my company, enforcing contracts, collecting debts. You know, all those business principles Uncle Philip taught us. A commotion outside my office drew our attention. Through the glass walls, I could see Uncle Philip himself storming down the hallway, followed by a flustered security guard. I told you this would get interesting, I said to Marcus, just as my office door flew open. Uncle Philip looked like he'd aged 10 years overnight. His usual perfectly groomed appearance was disheveled, his face mottled with rage. What is the meaning of this? He roared, waving his own stack of audit papers. I met his gaze steadily. Hello, Uncle Philip. I believe those papers explain everything quite clearly. Would you like me to go through them line by line? He slammed the papers down on my desk. You think you can extort your own family? After everything we've done for you? I couldn't help but laugh. Done for me? What exactly have you done for me, Uncle Philip? Mocked my career choices, excluded me from family opportunities, treated me like a failure because I didn't fit your narrow definition of success. I'll fight this, he sputtered. I'll take you to court. I pressed another button on my desk, and the large screen on the wall came to life, displaying years of documented fraud. By all means, let's go to court. I'm sure the press would love to hear how the prestigious Winter family has been cheating the utility system for years. Shall I call them now? The fight seemed to drain out of him all at once. He collapsed into a chair next to Marcus, looking suddenly old and defeated. The total amount due, including penalties and interest, comes to just over $4.2 million for all Winter family properties. I said, my voice professionally pleasant. You have 30 days to pay in full, or will be forced to discontinue service. And before you think of switching providers, Winter Peak Holdings now controls all power utilities in the tri-state area. You've been planning this for years, Marcus said quietly. I thought about all the Christmas dinners, all the snide remarks, all the times they had made me feel small. Let's just say I learned from the best. The Winter family taught me everything I know about business, especially the part about never mixing family with finances. As they sat there, broken and humiliated, I remembered something else. Reaching into my desk drawer, I pulled out 2 envelopes. Your Christmas cards, I said, sliding them across the desk. The ones you threw away without reading. They contained advance notice of the acquisition and an offer for a payment plan at a reduced rate. But since you didn't bother to read them, I shrugged. The full amount is now due. Uncle Philip and Marcus stared at the envelopes, the final twist of the knife in their wounded pride. Now, I said, standing up, I have a board meeting to attend. My assistant will show you out. Happy holidays. As they shuffled out of my office, I heard Marcus mutter, She played us. All these years she played us. I smiled, turning to look out at my city. No, Marcus, I didn't play you. I just learned to play the game better than you ever did. But this was just the beginning. The real storm was yet to come, and I had a feeling the Winter family's new year was going to be very interesting indeed. The next few weeks were a symphony of chaos. The Winter family, once so proud and untouchable, was unraveling thread by thread. My assistant forwarded me an email chain she'd accidentally been copied on. The family was desperately trying to gather the money for the utility bills. Uncle Philip had already maxed out his credit lines. Marcus's real estate deals were largely leveraged paper wealth. Aunt Victoria's jewelry was being quietly appraised for sale. But the best part? They still hadn't realized the full scope of what was coming. I sat in my office, reviewing the latest reports when my phone buzzed. It was Olivia. "We need to talk," she said, her usual smugness replaced by barely controlled panic. "The Winter Investment Group's accounts. They're frozen." I smiled, spinning slowly in my chair to face the city skyline. "Oh, that's concerning. Don't play dumb, Sarah. This has you written all over it." She was right, of course. The utility audit had been just the opening move. While investigating the fraudulent billing, my team had uncovered something much bigger: years of financial mismanagement and questionable transactions at the Winter Investment Group. As a major utilities provider, I said calmly, Winter Peak Holdings has a legal obligation to report any suspected financial irregularities we discover during our audits. The SEC is very particular about these things. The silence on the other end was deafening. "You," Olivia's voice cracked, "you reported us to the SEC?" "Not just the SEC. The audit findings have been shared with all relevant regulatory bodies. I believe the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit is particularly interested in some of Uncle Philip's creative accounting." Another call beeped through. Aunt Victoria. I put her on conference. "Sarah, darling," her voice dripped with desperate sweetness, "we need to discuss this like family. Surely we can come to some arrangement." Family. I repeated the word thoughtfully. Funny how that word only matters when you need something. Last Christmas, I was the embarrassment, the charity case. Remember? "We were just teasing," Aunt Victoria protested. "You can't destroy the family over some hurt feelings." "I'm not destroying anything," I replied coolly. "I'm simply running my business and following the law. Isn't that what you all taught me? Business is business?" The next day, headlines exploded across financial news. Winter Investment Group under federal investigation. Winter family empire faces multiple fraud allegations. Winter Peak Holdings CEO uncovers multi-million-dollar utility fraud. By evening, my office lobby was filled with reporters. Everyone wanted to know how the quiet Winter cousin had built a power company empire right under her family's noses. How the supposed failure had become the one holding all the cards. I scheduled a press conference for the following morning. It was time to step fully into the light. The conference room was packed. Cameras flashed as I took the podium, dressed in a power suit that cost more than all the Christmas gifts my family had ever given me combined. "Good morning," I began, my voice clear and strong. "I'm Sarah Winter, CEO of Winter Peak Holdings. Today, I want to discuss our recent acquisition of Evergreen Energy and our commitment to corporate transparency and accountability." In the middle of my speech, I saw them slip into the back of the room: Uncle Philip, Aunt Victoria, Marcus, Olivia. Their faces were ashen as I detailed the fraud investigation, that SEC involvement, the complete restructuring of all Winter family business interests. After the conference, they cornered me in my office. "You've destroyed us," Uncle Philip said hoarsely. "The family name, The family name? I cut him off. The same name you said I was disgracing by working in energy? That name. What do you want? Marcus demanded. Name your price. I walked to my window, looking out at the city I now partially powered. I want you to understand something. Success isn't measured by how many people you can step on. Power isn't about who has the biggest house or the most expensive car. I turned back to face them. Real power is about building something meaningful, something that lasts. While you were all playing rich family politics, I was creating an empire that actually matters. So this is your revenge, Olivia whispered. No, I shook my head. This is justice. Every fraudulent dollar will be repaid. Every illegal scheme will be exposed. And the Winter family will learn that actions have consequences. I pressed a button on my desk, and security appeared at my door. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a company to run. Oh, and don't forget, your utility bills are due next week. As they were escorted out, I saw something I'd never seen before in their eyes. Respect. Not the kind that comes from fear or money, but the kind that comes from being completely and utterly outplayed. The Winter family's power had always been built on appearances, on old money and older secrets. But real power? That comes from being underestimated, from being patient, from building something true while others laugh at your dreams. 1 year later, I hosted the family Christmas dinner in my penthouse apartment. The same relatives who once mocked my Honda now arrived in modest cars, their designer clothes replaced by department store brands. The Winter Investment Group had been dissolved. Uncle Philip was facing criminal charges, and the family fortune had been largely wiped out by fines and restitution payments. But something else had changed too. The smears were gone, replaced by genuine conversations. The boasting had given way to honest discussions about rebuilding, about learning from mistakes. As I stood at my window, watching the city lights twinkle, lights powered by my company, Olivia approached me. I never apologized, she said quietly, for all those years of everything. I smiled, thinking of that last Christmas when they'd called me poor. You know what the funny thing is? I never wanted their money or their approval. I just wanted them to see me, really see me. We see you now, she said softly. Yes, I agreed, watching my family gather around my Christmas tree, humbled but perhaps finally real. Yes, you do. I raised my glass, thinking about power, not the kind that flows through electrical lines, but the kind that flows through truth, through justice, through standing up for yourself, even when no one believes in you. Merry Christmas, I said to my chastened family. May your holidays be bright. After all, I smiled, remembering all those years of mockery. I'm the one keeping the lights on. My name is Sarah Winter, and I learned early in life that some families measure love in dollar signs. Growing up in the prestigious Winter family meant living under the constant pressure of expectations, not just about who you were, but more importantly, how much you were worth. I was always different from my cousins. While they chased corporate dreams and fought for positions in the family's investment firm, I saw a different path. Energy infrastructure fascinated me, the intricate systems that powered cities, the potential for sustainable solutions, the way everything connected. But in the Winter family, if you weren't in finance or real estate, you might as well not exist. Another crazy idea, Sarah, my cousin Marcus would say, his voice dripping with condescension whenever I tried to explain my passion for renewable energy. I suppose someone has to read electric meters for a living. The annual Winter family Christmas gathering was always a parade of wealth and achievements. This year was no different as we gathered at Uncle Philip's mansion, a sprawling estate that screamed old money and privilege.